Hi, I'm Zala Fashant. I'm with my colleague Karen LaPlant, and today we're going to be talking about chapters 11 and 12 from our book, In Designing Effective Teaching and Significant Learning, and this is for the course OCDI 8. So at any rate, let's get started. We're going to be talking about the reflection portion of our book. Previously, if you're taking this course in order and you've taken the other pieces just before this, we talked a lot about the different parts of measuring course quality, assessing student learning, program department assessment, and institutional assessment. And so we are now moving on to the final part of the book, which is really talking about your teaching practice, reflection on your courses, and then as you see things kind of as identify needs, kind of the learning how to learn in professional development and assessing the kinds of things that you want to improve in your teaching and the way that you're going to be delivering significant learning for students. So let's talk about the reflecting on your teaching aspect of it. First of all, reflection provides equilibrium. When you think about it, it's probably the one thing that we as teachers don't spend as much time doing. We spend a lot of our time teaching and giving and doing and then taking a break. But it's really important to think about the reflection aspect of this, especially if you're wondering if your course is going well, if there's things you want to improve in your course, ways that you can improve your teaching. The reflection piece is going to be something that takes place. There's something that's probably gnawing at you. You begin to start thinking about that. And of course, recently, we just had this whole pandemic, and we still have parts of the pandemic, and we have other natural environmental disturbances that get in the way of our teaching, that get in the way of students learning. And so I think one of the things we really want to be able to do is spend the time on sort of making our courses as foolproof as possible. So a desire to do more, update your skills, and or update your courses to meet new standards and provide a better experience is really going to happen through professional reflection. So I want you to look for just a moment, and this diagram is actually in your book. You get a chance to take a look at that and ask yourself this question: do you currently use all of the aspects of the reflection of practice cycle? So when we look at the top part of this here, we'll begin to take a look at learn from teaching literature. One way to be able to pick this up. You pick up ideas that way, you read about them, you hear about them from colleagues, you use them in your courses, and then we sort of assess the effectiveness. Did that work? You give yourself some internal feedback. You may have others that are observing your courses, giving you some feedback, and you have got the time to adjust. You can share these best practices with your colleagues. And then finally, you can reflect on your own teaching and student learning and get an idea of, did it do what you wanted it to do? Hence, if not, you go back to the top again and you learn from teaching literature. And we'll talk about some other kinds of ways that you can pick that up besides the teaching literature. One of the things that kind of becomes important when we look at this, and this again is also in the book, something for you to consider in chapter 11, is really this idea that when we want to improve the quality of teaching, that access to the left versus the bottom axis, which is time, those people who only learn from their own experience, it takes quite a bit of time, and it takes time to be able to get to raise to the level of the quality of teaching you want. It'll get there, but it's going to take probably on the lowest trajectory of everything to be able to get there. If you combine learning from your own experiences and learning from colleagues and experts, you've now picked up some additional kinds of feedback that you can begin to implement in your teaching. And so you begin to raise the level of your quality of your teaching. And finally, when you add to those two things, ideas that you get from literature on teaching or literature on teaching in your discipline, those kinds of things will probably be the remedy or the prescription for the highest quality of teaching in the shortest period of time. So one of the tests that seem to end up in the I'll get to it later pile is the documenting of our good work. And I think one of the things that is critically important for us to do, because we'll always get to it later, but we never have the time, is we need to begin to document our teaching. Perhaps it feels a little boastful to be doing that, or that it's not going to be that important, but with any journey, marking your miles, remembering the sites that you've seen makes it a worthy experience. Those of you who love to take pictures and go back and review the pictures and relive that experience are doing that same kind of a thing by documenting your teaching. If you haven't already set up a portfolio, now is the time to do that. If you have started, then you can use the checklist that we've included in the book to help you archive some items that you may not have collected in your portfolio thus far. So start a system in record keeping. What to keep, what to throw. There's a lot of stuff that you're going to have. There's a lot of content that you could put in there. You are going to really think of this as a bit of a museum. And you are the curator of this museum, and you're going to keep the best things that you'll be able to share with others when it's appropriate. So we suggest that you start a binder, you have a drawer, you have an old shoebox, or those of you who are really great and tech savvy on your computer and very organized, set up some computer files to be able to store this information so that you can keep the artifacts during the semester, and you just keep throwing them in there and you can sort and do something more with them after that. But keeping them, it could be, some of the things that you're going to collect, we'll talk about in a minute. But some faculty are great about organizing things weekly. Others may wait for a break in the semester or wait till the semester's end to get back in there and sort of sort and organize it. But if you can at least start by creating a series of computer files, that would be very helpful. So place the articles or the artifacts in a safe place so that when you come back from a professional development event, you'll be able to hold on to them and share and use them. And you can include your reflections on what you intend to do with what you learned. And I think part of that is when we're at a conference or we're at an event, maybe on our campus, where we're hearing some really great ideas, writing those down, taking those notes, and talking about the ways you want to use them is going to be extremely important to get yourself organized. Keep a journal during committee meetings so that you can organize your thoughts, and you can also list what your contributions were while you were serving on this committee. You can scan paper documents. Some of you can use your camera's phone to take pictures of documents and share that. The notes feature on an iPhone, for instance, is great at that. You can scan those documents and make them into PDFs. Taking some pictures at events with colleagues and other kinds of artifacts that you can't always keep because they're big, there's something you're not going to be able to duplicate that. Those are all a great way of being able to archive this. You may also take samples of exemplary student work. If students have created a project, if students are sharing something that you want to be able to hold on to and remember for later, taking some pictures of that with your camera phone is extremely important to do. Do it right away. Don't wait, because you're never going to have more time. We always think we're going to have that time, but in years and years of teaching, I know that you never get that time. So do it immediately and get it out of the way. It kind of goes back to some advice I learned one time where it was touch each piece of paper once, do something with it and file it, put it away, throw it away, whatever you do, just touch it once and think of the same thing with these artifacts. Take the pictures, put the pictures in your computer files, and you're ready to go. And then another great tip that when I've talked with faculty before is to be able to really spend a lot of time just throwing in some days that you're going to archive. And it could be, it's an hour on a Friday, every third Friday or something that way. Put it in your calendar, put it in your phone calendar. Make sure that you've done that. A lot of the times when you get done with the end of the semester, you submit your grades, it's going to be a very, very difficult time to necessarily do that. You're already tired. You've just spent a whole semester working on something. So you can do it at that time. For those of you who think of it as one of your end of semester kinds of activities, or put it in your phone, however it works best for you. Develop a system of reminders to be able to make sure that you kind of get to it once a month, clean it up. If we do a little bit at a time, it's not a big chore, and it doesn't seem like a mental challenge for you to have to get back to it. Developing a portfolio is more than a scrapbook of collection. It's not a photo album. It's not just that. It's really something much more important. It's tangible evidence of the great job that you're doing in education. So it provides you, your chair or dean, the program and department, the institution, or professional organizations an opportunity of seeing the evidence that you have gathered for your work and your career. Artifacts are collected that show a reflection on the quality work that you've exhibited, and it shows your growth and mastery of teaching and your discipline. It shows the kind of work that you're doing with students. It provides an opportunity, which is a great kind of thing, especially if you're going to apply for grants and whatever. You need to be able to show that you have these pieces in a portfolio to be able to deliver quality work. And so I think that when you think about that, sometimes there are teaching awards and other kinds of things. To start all of that when you see an application is really getting yourself way behind where you want to be. Having that in place and keeping it organized is extremely important. The portfolio experience is more meaningful when you write the narratives about experiences. You may remember some of the stories that happened at that time. Other people don't. And when you pass that off, when you hand that in, I know that as a dean, I've been able to collect portfolios from faculty members, and those descriptions mean a lot. When they talk about the kinds of work that they did, they talk about the students' reactions, they talk about what students had to say about the assignments or the projects or the product and the way that they grew. Those kinds of things are extremely important. So do yourself that favor and keep that, because on those days when you're really tired or you feel real beat up in your job, those are some really fantastic things to go back over. You can ask your dean, your chair, for any portfolio guidelines that you have on your campus. They may have specific things they want you to include in there. You may also connect with a colleague who's created a portfolio and see the kinds of examples of artifacts that they've put in their portfolio there. Here are some of the things that we suggest you put in there, because these are some of the best practices that I've gotten from faculty when I've been a dean and I've seen the opportunity of the kinds of work that they put in. Their curriculum vitae is in there, the philosophy of teaching and learning statements, papers that they've written that way. Any course survey evaluations are included, letters, emails from students, anything from alumni or anything that you've gotten from your administration, assessment tools that you've developed to administer, rubrics that you've created, opportunities to improve assessment for your students in your courses are great artifacts to be able to include in your portfolio. Also, institutional data about your program or department. You may be well familiar with it, but people from outside may not know about that. And having that set up, again, like I mentioned, if you apply for a grant or you apply for something, they may be asking you for that institutional data. It's great to have that on hand, ready to go. You've got classroom observation forms from your administrators. You've got self-evaluation activities, things that you have done, ways that you've improved and improved your own performance based on sort of self-help rubrics. You have the performance evaluations that have been written by your supervisors. You can take samples of student work, like I said before, with their permission. Good to have a little form that you create so that when you take this, you say, hey, will I be able to use this in my portfolio? And they sign that, you've got that ready to go. You don't want to try and track them down 5 years later to be able to do that. And then again, any books, texts, articles, course materials that you've written for publication. Those kinds of things are extremely important to include in there because they show the quality of work that you've done. You may have done research projects, professional reflection materials, any awards, certificates from institutions or community, professional organizations, anything that you've gotten that way from folks of recognition, make sure that those are in there. If you've developed internships and done things for your students to be able to get them out, or formed community partnerships or business partnerships with industry leaders, those are important things to include. Team teaching courses and projects with colleagues within your department or across departments. You've got curriculum development projects and course revisions, things that you've done that way. And then finally, your course descriptions and the responsibilities. Anything that you had a hand in creating, improving, and doing, make sure you include all those things there. You may not want it all or need it all down the road, but you've got it, and you've got some great things there. As you can see, some examples of the work that you did in the courses that you've designed and that you've taught are extremely important to be able to share. So as you've gone through this is good. Even the certificate that you get at the end of this course, something to include in your portfolio. So when you go to events, remember the campus activities, any of the brown bags or any of the things that you've done, that you've gone to and learned more about teaching and learning, when you've gone to and participated in student success days, open houses, anything with your professional organizations, your advisory boards, or community meetings, include some of the information from that, so that I, as a dean, an administrator, or somebody else who is evaluating you for a grant or an award would be able to see that you're actively involved. Campus activities that you planned and helped to implement, faculty are critically important in that, and that's a lot of work. And so consequently, it's great to have those things in there. The committees that you served on, put in the initiatives, the ideas, the agendas, the charters that you have completed and your service to the institution. And finally, any work that you did for accreditation, for those of you who have that. So what have you done? Professional growth. When you take a look at conference programs and workshops, any presentations that you've given, any articles that you've written for journals and those things, include them. Your own professional development plan, of course, is extremely important. Advanced degree completion, the materials, what was involved with that? What did you need to do? Teaching and learning, professional development opportunities, evidence of improving your practice. Those are there. Also, partnerships, any letters, emails, testimonials from your collaborative partners or partners that you developed with community and business organizations for your institution, for your courses. Those things are all great to be able to make sure that you've included on these. So think about how you made a difference and reflect on that. How does your teaching support or further the goals of your program or department, or frankly, move on to the level of institution? How do you stay current in your discipline and apply the best practices in your teaching? What's the process for you to do that? What are your career goals? Is it going to be staying as a faculty member? Is it going to be increasing your publications and publishing? Is it going to be administration at some time? What are your career goals? And set those. And then how do you use the information gathered on the student evaluations to be able to improve your teaching? Talk about the process that you use. Don't just say, well, I read them and I make some changes. What is an actual in-depth process? So I can see the evidence of your thinking, or whoever's looking at your portfolio can see those things there. What 3 things would you like to improve in the next semester? Those are some goals you can set. Again, when you think about your professional development plan, maybe those are some things that you can include on that plan. What are 3 things that you're most proud of in your current teaching? How have you collaborated with members of your department or program? And how would you like to become involved in the wider college community? Some of those are really important to add, especially for adjunct faculty. Full-time faculty, we sort of expect that from that, but adjunct faculty need to be able to consider those things and see those things as well, and to be able to demonstrate those to your administrator. It's nice to know as an administrator that you are thinking about that. And so when I think about those things, they're very, very important. All of those things that I just listed, and there were a lot of them, they're all in the book, which is fantastic for you to be able to go through, so you don't have to worry about that, but you can really use that as the checklist here. Some of you may identify those bullets below. On your campus, there may be a Center for Online Teaching, or Center for Teaching and Learning, Center for Excellence in Teaching and Learning. There's a lot of different titles that campuses use. Get involved, find out who's active in those, who's running those kinds of programs, and see what it is that you can do to take advantage of all the great professional development you have right there on campus. They have one goal in common, which is to help you make yourself the best you can be. If you need to make a video for your course, or you have a struggling student, or you need some new ideas for presenting materials, the directors at the center have heard a lot, they've seen a lot, and they know how to help you. Finally, centers provide these opportunities. They provide network with other faculty, new faculty seminars, teaching circles, workshops, book clubs, peer counseling, observations that they can come in and do informally with you, and mentoring to be able to help you improve your teaching and learning. So the center directors are usually experienced faculty or staff that can also help give you some ideas. They can help you solve problems. And so they're a little bit like the librarian. Go in there, and it's amazing what librarians know. It's amazing what Center of Teaching and Learning directors know. Ask them. They also may have funds to be able to help you, or be able to show you how to access funds for professional conferences. So in thinking about your course, how will you provide an experience for your students to develop and share their own learning how to learn opportunity? I'm going to turn this a little bit back into thinking about that learning how to learn piece. One, you can do it for yourself, but how do you make sure that you're doing it for your students? Pause the recording and reflect on that, and we'll start up again in a minute. All right, so how can students continue to learn after they have left your course? Well, get your students to think about professional journals. The most popular, the best intentions, a lot of the things that they're going to be able to use in their future. Think about and just like your own self, your professional organizational memberships that have student levels to them, or the kind of organizational memberships they're going to need once they're out in their industries and they're working. Student conferences that you may be able to take them to as a part of what you're doing in your disciplines, writing their own articles on work experiences. Oftentimes faculty will team up with students and turn in a team article to be able to get published. Your department may publish former students' professional articles with permission, of course, and share that with alumni. Mentorships between graduates and present students is a great way to be able to link the students who have been successful in your program with those who are going through it now. You have meet and greet opportunities like portfolio exhibitions, opportunities for former students to come back and meet the students who are going through your program now. And then also inviting your students to be able to serve on your department advisory boards and be able to get them to see the kind of work that's done for curriculum and to build those partnerships. Some faculty include a final reflection assignment at the end of a course. And so when you think about that, share what the wisdom is that the students gain from that. And then you can share that, these letters, really, once you've had a chance to read them, you can serve and read those and pass them along to the next set of students who are in there and be able to share that. I think it's a great opportunity for them to learn kind of from their peers from their own experiences of what's going through. And of course, you can look at those and make sure that they're appropriate to share with students in the long run. So there's no time like the present. Start organizing, recording, and archiving today. Wish you the best of luck as you create your portfolios and archive the great work that you're doing. Thanks.